She is the person that leads us all. Only sparing a second glance for the super popular jocks and her girls, she is an A-list celebrity, only able to admire from afar. She is certainly pretty enough, with a heart-shaped face and huge blue eyes, coupled with a stellar figure and a height of about 5 feet 6 inches. She is an angel around the teachers, yet a vixen around the boys, charming an average of around 2 a week. However, she always manages to keep her boyfriend, Ian. I honestly have no idea why he puts up with her. The teacher clears his throat loudly, trying to quell the screams and lust-filled yells. There are a couple of snorts, but eventually the chatter dies down. Xavier, take a seat by Mona since she is your guide for today, he orders, and we both head towards the back. Xavier leans his head towards mine, his face bent in concern. Are you okay? You're scowling, he whispers. His eyes boring into mine. I'm fine, I murmur softly, still disconcerted by the way the whole class is staring at us. He shakes his head. No, you aren't. I can tell. We reach our seats, in the back of the classroom, and sit down quietly. I look at him, my gaze betraying the emotions underneath. Don't worry, I try to shake it off. I can handle it. His eyes crinkle in protest. Mona, you don't have to. I know, I state, my words a sigh. Carefully I draw my social studies binder out of my backpack, giving it to him. Here is what we have been learning so far. I can feel Sydney's curious gaze as she twists in her seat. From her perch about 3 chairs away, she once again drinks in Xavier's enticing appearance, her expression of hunger. She casts a sultry glance his way. Xavier sees her, taking in her inviting smile, and turns away immediately. Even Ian reels back in surprise as he looks at me and whispers. That girl, is she one of those special needs kids? She hasn't stopped staring at me since I got in here. I burst out in laughter, my smile illuminating the darkened room. Every student's eyes turn towards me, but I barely notice, consumed by enjoyment at his words. The teacher pauses, his eyebrow cocked as he surveys my joyous form. Anything you would like to tell all of us? Mona, he asks dangerously. No sir, I sputter, the laughter dying quickly. The students soon turn away except for 2 persons, one glaring at me in fury, the other with an unfamiliar expression I cannot distinguish. She isn't special needs, I whisper in Xavier's ear, my face still contorted with laughter. He nods, absolutely serious. Connecting gazes with Sydney, he casts her a smile. Pay attention, he mouths. Pointing to the board. I giggle softly as she pulls her electrifying gaze from me to absorb Xavier's words, then turns with a defeated huff towards the front. Ian, on the other hand, just watches me blankly, staring at me until I start to blush. I hurriedly look at my notebook, doodling cartoon faces and random scribbles. During the entire period, girls keep throwing glances towards Xavier, and he seems completely comfortable with the attention. He stares straight ahead, devoting his attention to the teacher, absorbing everything the man says. Out of the corner of my eye, I take in his profile. Long lashes frame emerald eyes, leading into a straight nose and light red lips that are twisted into a light smirk as I sneak glances at him. He turns his head, ignoring the girls' lovesick simpers, and smirks even bolder at me. Like what you see, he asks slyly, smiling sweetly at my scowl. My blush reoccurs, spreading across my face like wildfire. No actually, I scoff, though the red decorating my features betray the truth. He laughs quietly, amused by my disconcertment. Girls shoot me hateful glares, including Sydney, who had turned around to catch Xavier's attention once more. Obviously no one likes how close I am to this handsome man. If only they knew how much of a psycho he is. When the bell finally rings, and we finally file out of the classroom, a throng of amazed people, most from other classes, surrounds him. I roll my eyes as he is immediately buried by his new fan club, girls and boys alike. Xavier catches my glance before he is swallowed by his admirers, mouthing, "I'll be back soon. Wait for me." I hide my smile until he is completely submerged. Then it forces itself to the surface, shown for the whole world to see. ******. I am exhausted, physically and mentally, by lunchtime. Xavier has been dogged by so many people that even he is tired now, huffing beside me like a car that has just run out of gas. This, he says, running a hair through his perfect, blue hair, is why I haven't gone to school for the last 32 years. I blink, wondering if I had heard him right. 32 years, I squeak, my voice barely above a whisper. Even now, as we casually walk down the hallway, people are staring at him, gossiping about the new senior that is sizzling hot. Yeah. I was born 55 years ago. March 4th. 1955, to be exact, and you are not eligible to go to school until you are 5. So, that makes about 32 years since I last went. I only completed high school, and didn't go to college, he says plainly. My eyes widen with surprise as I absorb his words. So you are 55 years old, I say dubiously. Somehow, that is hard to believe. He looks like a normal 18-year-old, an incredibly hot one. I must admit. Not really, he says softly, looking at the floor as he emits these next words. A werewolf has no beginning and no end. We are born out of death, and death we shall remain. I cross my arms, trying to disguise the fact that I am confused. It is hard for me to understand the meaning behind his statement. What do you mean no beginning and no end? I question, my voice filled with curiosity. I'll tell you later, he shrugs. It will take a little while to explain, and we don't have the time. His carelessness signifies that it is not a huge deal, so I relax a little. Then I stiffen once more as I realize that I am warming up to him. It is like I am constantly waging a war against an undeniable attraction, and the deathly feeling is taking the lead. However, I will not let it win. I will not fall in love with Xavier. Fine, I say as we finally reach the double doors. He steps in front of me, swinging the door open. He shoots me a beautiful smile, holding it so I can enter the lunchroom. I marvel at how much of a gentleman he is, at how respectful and old-fashioned he behaves. Oh yeah, he was born 55 years ago. The lunchroom houses tables for 4, 2, and 8. They are scattered within the room, with a buffet on the kitchen side. On the opposite end, there is a stage. A rather lackluster room overall, matching the insipid rest of the school. We walk to the long line, surrounded by girls as they swarm around the blue-haired idiot. Cries and calls erupt, all directed towards Xavier. I, expressionless, grab a napkin and tray, placing it on the buffet so I can get my daily helping of tasteless mush. Xavier follows my actions, wincing in disgust as he surveys the selection of what the school likes to call food. This is another reason why I haven't gone to school, he mutters as he stacks the slushy mess onto his tray. I look at the tray, avoiding his gaze. I deal with it every day, I sigh as I bring the tray to the cashier. Robotically, I punch in my PIN number and pay for the food. Every month, the orphanage gives me $20 for my cafeteria account. Lunch, however, is $1, leaving me to go without lunch for a couple of days. Xavier pulls out a tender green bill, handing it to the old and withered cashier. She takes it, her eyelashes fluttering as she shoots Xavier a flirty smile, and examines the thin piece of paper. Suddenly, her eyes widen and she waves the bill at him. $100 bill, she asks, surprised. He waves her off. Keep the change. Her eyes are nearly bulging out of her skull. But lunch is $1, she says, incredulous. Oh really, he asks as he looks at the horror splurging on his tray. I thought it would be less. This looks absolutely disgusting, laughs explode around the lunchroom, all attention focused on the beautiful man. The funny thing about it is, Xavier is totally serious when he is talking to the cashier. He means the utmost respect. Even I can't prevent a laugh from bubbling forth. Take it, he says to her, rather disappointingly. Use the money to improve your food so the students will actually eat it. With a last, disdaining glance, he walks to my side. Cheers ensue. The whole student body agreeing with his words. Come on, Mona, he demands, authority oozing from him. He leads the way to a table for 2 in the corner of the lunchroom, oblivious to the odd glances sticking to him like glue. He pulls out the rusty chair, it squeaking as it complied with his will. I stand, waiting for him to sit down, my form awkwardly lingering by his side. He gestures towards the chair, realization coming upon me as I find out that he actually wants me to sit down. Blushingly I obey his command, flattered that a boy would actually do that for me. Xavier huffs to the other chair. Glancing at me, he asks quietly. Why is everyone looking at us? Because you just voiced their opinion, I whisper back. I'm surprised no one else has, he snorts as he surveys the food before him. This is gross. I take my spoon, dipping it into the food, raising it to my lips. With a forced swallow, I gag down the bit of food, sighing with relief as it graces my dreadfully empty stomach. No matter how disgusting the food is, I need to choke it down. Xavier watches me as I eat, a grimace decorating his face. "Why are you eating that?" he asks, pure disgust in his features. I shrug, though the truth is that this is almost all I get to eat every day. If I tell Xavier that, though, he will have a fit. He tilts his head slightly as he surveys me, watching me scarf down the catastrophe. "You have to eat it. Don't you?" he guesses correctly as I savor every piece, each bit making the horrible feeling in my stomach lighten. I nod my head, taking a swig of my milk with tender fingers. After another silence, I finally finish my lunch, feeling like a pig for gobbling it down so fast. "Can I have your milk, Xavier?" I question, looking pointedly at his unopened carton. "Sure. Why not?" he replies, drawing humor from the fact that I actually want his food. The corner of his mouth turns up as he shoves his whole tray towards me, my eyes lighting up as I realize that I just might have enough to eat today. I start in on this new bit of food, focusing on the warmth it will give in my stomach, not the nasty taste it offers. I feel despicable. I even had to ask the wolf boy for food. "Thank you." I tilt my head slightly, knowing that I seem like a starving animal. The pull for food, however, is more powerful than any other force, and that is the one driving me right now. "Does that orphanage not give you any food?" he probes, a little angrily. I just stare at him, unwilling to tell him the answer. A furious light is in his eyes, anger in his tone. "Mona," he says firmly. "Don't eat that." He grabs both trays, standing up and putting them in the disposal. As he troops back over to me, dozens of hungry eyes follow him, annoying me immensely for some strange reason. I can feel tons of stares on my own back as well. Many whispers erupt around me, probably along the lines of "the loser shouldn't be sitting by that hot guy," or "let's bet to see how long it will be before he ditches her," subconsciously. I slump a little, hoping their gazes will eventually leave me. But they linger, stirring up my discomfort and their jeers. Xavier passes me and disappears through the doors, leaving me stranded on our island for two. I suddenly realize that I now feel terribly lonely, more than I could have anticipated. Is this how I usually feel when I am eating in the lunchroom alone? 2 days ago, before all this stuff happened, feels almost like a distant memory. After a couple of agonizing minutes, Xavier enters the lunchroom again carrying 2 trays of steaming hot steak. He walks to my side, placing one tray in front of me and one in front of his seat. My mouth hits my knees as I examine the food. Steak is my favorite type of food, a delicacy that I developed a taste for in childhood, and this one looks especially delicious. "Thank you so much," I say gushingly, breaking out into a smile. I take the silver knife beside the steak and dig in, wondering just how he managed to get this yummy food. He just stares at me as I gobble down the delicious meat, a tiny smile on his face. "Don't thank me," he says quietly. "Just be happy." "Oh, I am," I reassure him as I delve my fork deeper into the delicious entree. "Obviously the way to your heart is through food," Xavier laughingly comments. In a moment of vulnerability, I laugh with him, my voice carrying across the room. Then I remember that I am not supposed to even smile in Xavier's presence. However, I have no time to wipe off my grin, for the biggest fish in the sea is swimming our way. In other words, Sydney Richards, 2 of her girls following behind her as backup. I don't even know their names. Nor does most of the school's population. They are just known as Sydney's girls, only good for fake laughs and compliments. Just what Sydney needs. She troops over to us from her royal throne, flipping her blonde hair back from her face every few seconds, confidently strutting in her 5-inch-tall golden pumps. With a skirt about 5 inches above the dress code requirements and a blouse with a bit too many buttons undone, she has successfully secured the stares of every boy in school. Finally reaching our table, she casts Xavier a smile not unlike the one she used a couple of hours ago. "Hey," she tries to make her voice smooth and sweet. "I'm Sydney, and these are 2 of my girls." I almost laugh when I notice that even Sydney doesn't say their names. Xavier takes another bite of his delicious steak, and then looks up into Sydney's most likely modified face. "You probably know my name," he says plainly, clearly uninterested. Sydney looks surprised, but she quickly recovers, reaching to the end of her now mini skirt and fingering it, trying to draw his attention to her bronzed thighs that are muscular, yet slender. He doesn't notice her efforts, looking to the ceiling, then back at his delectable steak. "Do you want to sit with us?" she offers quickly. Away from this reject, I wince at the word reject, at the way she doesn't even look at me, as if I am worth nothing. Away in the background, I see 3 spots left open, 1 for Sydney and 2 for her girls. There's no spots. He tries to evade a direct answer, but that doesn't stop Sydney. With a snap of her fingers, and a list jock is immediately dismissed. Degraded to AB status. Now there is Ian, 2 other jocks, and 1 of her girls sitting at the table. "For you," she tells him, a seductive expression gracing her features. "There is always a spot." "I decline," he says abruptly. Digging back into his meat. Sydney just stands, her mouth in a perfectly lip-glossed O. "B but T," she stutters. No one ever declines. Her words are forced, cheerfulness evaporating. I see a sliver of doubt enter her, a drop of low esteem slipping into her bloodstream. "Well," he says after wiping his mouth with a napkin. "I am not no one. I can do whatever the crap I want. And right now, I don't want to sit at your table." Her eyes widen, her voice strained. The whole lunchroom is staring at us, and I suddenly feel as if we are under a spotlight, unable to escape from it. "So you are just going to sit with this loser?" She finally casts a hate-filled glare at my form. Abruptly, I start to shiver as I am turned to ice by her gaze. I can tell, at that moment, that she wants me completely and utterly dead. Xavier stares at her face. Not once wavering. "Please, Cindy." "Sydney," she dryly corrects, most likely a first for her. "Sorry," he apologizes, and then continues. "It's just that Mona will be alone if I leave her to go with you, and I can't allow that." He speaks calmly and gentlemanly, respect now in his tone. I blush at his words, the redness blooming on my slightly pale cheeks. Sydney glances at me, as if she was really looking at me for the first time. "Mona," she murmurs to herself, as if she was trying to remember my name. Then she perks up and smiles once more at Xavier. "Okay then," she says. "Maybe another time." With another snap of her fingers, all 3 of them turn and start strutting towards the royalty table. However, when Xavier's head is turned, she looks back and shoots me a glance of pure loathing. The shivers begin again, creeping up and down my spines, chilling me to the bone. I return my gaze to Xavier finally, my fork lingering over the last bite of steak. "Are you not hungry?" he asks curiously. I barely shake my head, the coldness freezing me silent. I eat the last piece, chewing it robotically. Suddenly, a warm hand encircles mine, bringing me everlasting warmth. Xavier propels my hand towards his meat, stabbing a juicy piece with my fork. "Try this," he softly suggests. Drawing my hand and fork towards my face, he prompts me to eat it, awakening butterflies in my stomach. I am now a giant red tomato, with cheeks as red as a fire engine. "Is it good?" he asks, smiling, gently releasing my arm from his grip. Girls all across the lunchroom stare in envy and disgust at my form. Xavier's fan club probably already planning an ambush. "Yes," I murmur, distracted by the way his eyes sparkle in the light. His meat is a little different, yet just as good. Embarrassment flickers across my features as I realize that I am staring. Xavier chuckles, and then shoots me a wink. "I can't wait to introduce you to Wes," he laughs. "He will have you melting into a puddle on the floor." "Wes?" I ask curiously. "Only the biggest flirt in the whole world," he smiles. "You'll meet him at the mansion after school." "Oh really?" I say. Not quite grasping his words. Then, I suddenly understand. "What mansion? I never heard you talk about going to a mansion." Mona. "I told you about it before we got to school," he clarifies, my lack of memory surprising him. I scoff, my red hair waving slightly. "Oh yeah. I remember, but you weren't serious, were you?" "Of course I was," he says seriously. I start to laugh, merry pearls of joy that reverberates around the lunchroom. "There is no way you are taking me there," I reply. I am not going to a mansion alone with Xavier. For all I know, he might kill me in the forest and eat me. Well, I guess that would defeat the purpose of saving me from definite death, but still. "You wanna bet?" he asks dangerously, his eyes alight. I look at the floor. Not wanting to say anything. If I do spit out a word, he might pick me up and carry me out of the lunchroom to the mansion right now, in front of the whole school. Yep, silence is best right now. And careful planning, of course. I'll just escape from him. Meeting the pack of players. The bell rings, signifying the conclusion of another tortuous day. My locker, unfortunately next to Mr. Popular himself, winks at me as I walk out of the classroom towards it. Xavier is overwhelmed by his fans, leaving me ample time to collect my baggage. I grab my stuff, waiting for him to dissipate the crowd and make his way towards me. Which he does, with a big smile on his face. "Are you ready?" he questions. I look away, trying to make my voice sound convincing. "Can I go to the bathroom first?" He nods, staring at me with his electrifying green eyes. I feel, suddenly, as if he can stare straight through me, seeing what my true intentions are. Keeping my head down, I plow past him into the ferocious crowd. I slip through the halls, enduring shoving and pushing along the way, and pause by the bathroom. Consisting of only a tiny hall of stalls and 2 meager sinks, it is a sorry excuse for a bathroom, but it will suit my purposes just fine. I walk to the end of the bathroom, right at the last stall. A small window, about the size of a half piece of poster board, perches about 4.5 feet above the floor. My escape route. It is at about chin level on me, clearly at a height I can't climb to. Carefully, I reach forward and open it. The glass swinging outwards. Now I am ready. Placing my backpack on the tile floor, the contents tumbling out of its confinements. I begin to stack my books and binders on top of each other. Then, I put the tower of school supplies in the backpack, the zippered top of it open. I grasp the handles on either side, stepping onto the tiny mountain like I had planned hours earlier. The 2-foot-tall pile sways and almost collapses underneath me, but I catch the window ledge before it gives way to gravity. Propelling myself upwards, my butt hits the ledge, leaving my backpack swinging below me because of my hold on it. Pulling the handles, I force it to reach my current elevation. I turn, my feet now swinging over the edge, towards the outdoors as I pack the binders and books back in my bag. The scene before me, a plain view that includes a blue sky and a bunch of dead grass, has never been so beautiful. For now, it symbolizes freedom. I feel elation pounding in my chest, a burden disappearing from my shoulders. Nothing I have ever experienced amounts to this emotion. This feeling of liberty. The feeling vanishes when I look towards the ground. I mentally smack myself in the head when I survey the 30 feet between me and the tops of the prickly bushes directly below. There is no way I am going to be able to get out from here. Well, unless I want to break an arm and a leg. Laughing, I let my whisper escape into the cool breeze. Looks like my perfect plan is a total failure. I know I should have chosen the back door route, but the bathroom idea was too crazy to resist at the time, and Xavier wouldn't get too suspicious in the process. But how could I have known that this bathroom is actually 30 feet above the ground, and that a patch of thorny bushes grovels below? I hear some chattering behind me as some figures enter the bathroom. Shutting my eyes, I squeeze my backpack tightly, hoping that they won't notice my back in the window. Unfortunately, I can't see anything from my position, facing outwards. Fear enters me, the thought that they might laugh at my form chilling me to the bone. I shift slightly, thrusting my head into the afternoon air, leaving only my back and butt in the window. From my position, the bushes might as well be a sea of sharks. The noise suddenly ceases. The chattering halting so suddenly that the air freezes as well. My body stiffens, and I suddenly find it hard to breathe. There are steps, ones that grow increasingly louder to my unwilling ears. I can tell they are heading my way, sensing the foreboding hiding behind each small movement. Finally, they stop as well, leaving only silence. Dangerous silence. Time seems to pause, even my breath suspended in anxiety. Light and incredibly thin fingers. Hundreds of them, brush across my back as the figure leans close to my ear. The person's hot breath, full of menace, dwindles upon the back of my neck. There is another painful pause. The suspense eating me whole, and then a sound that makes my blood run cold. "He is mine," a malicious voice whispers. A pair of 2 soft but strangely strong hands collide with my back, the carefully manicured nails clawing into my skin. The force pushes me forwards, and I start to fly. Only for a second, though, before gravity takes its course. The air rushes past me, my backpack serving as a weight to pull me down even faster. I release it, hoping crazily that somehow it will slow me, but that doesn't stop my plummet. I am toppling face down, my view of the deathly bushes absolutely electrifying. Death looms before me once more, a familiar figure I have come to recognize in its previous 2 visits. I marvel at the fact that death has come for me 3 times so far, when the average teenager doesn't even know his face. The ground runs to meet me, and I shut my eyes tightly. Muscled arms, strong and sinewy, wrap around my form right before the first prickly leaf mars my face. For surely these perfect arms must belong to a man, cradles me, embracing my suddenly fiery hot skin. Electricity shocks me in every place that he touches me, a strange, arousing feeling searing through my veins. I stare into the face of my savior, and grimace. Somehow, I know even before I look that the mysterious man is Xavier. "Why would you do something stupid like fall out of the bathroom window?" he asks confusedly, his tone a little accusing. Setting me down, away from the thorns, he steps out as well. Streaks of red blood pulsate from his knee down, thorns sticking into his leg. He seems not to notice the demolition of his beautiful calves, continuing on with his "why are you so stupid" talk. "I had to run from the front of the school," he complains. "To you in 3 seconds flat, and avoid a group of annoying girls along the way. Why were you in the window? I thought you were in the bathroom. And don't they usually keep those windows shut? How could you fall out of a closed window? I was trying to escape, wolfboy. Get it right," I say, without energy or menace. "A near-death experience takes a lot out of you." Xavier looks at me, his eyes wide, and begins to laugh hysterically. I realize now that the fact that I was trying to escape makes me look even stupider than if I had just fallen out of the window. "Mona," he speaks, his voice like melted butter as it slips through his lips. "You can't escape from me." Anger pumps through my veins, sparks flying. Who is he to tell me I can't escape? Even though he's probably right. "Oh, and Mona," he says suddenly. "Take this." He offers me a small ring, with an emerald on top. It sparkles in the light, as beautiful as Xavier's eyes. I slip it on my finger, though dubious. "Is this an engagement ring?" I ask suspiciously. He shakes his head. "If it was, I would propose," he says obviously, making me feel stupid again. Anger courses through me as I think of the endless amount of days I was going to have to endure this werewolf, one that thinks he is all that. However, all doom and gloom evaporates as I survey the blood running towards his foot. It is worse now, the thorns growing irritated in the skin. "Xavier," I tell him, squatting down to examine the injury better. "We have to get you a bandage." I have to admit, it was very nice and heroic of Xavier to save me, and I owe him at least this much concern. Xavier shrugs. "I'll get it fixed at the mansion." "It can wait." His careless attitude is completely opposite from what it should be, reminding me once again that he is not normal. "No," I say fiercely. "It can't." Opening my backpack, I take a small supply of napkins out of a pocket. Brushing it across the blood, I wipe most of it off so I can get a better view. The thorns protrude from his skin, big ones that would have me in tears. Using my fingers, I carefully pull each one out, trying to ignore the desire pulsing through me. The vulnerability I am displaying to the over-affectionate werewolf. Xavier shoots me a smile as I take out the last thorn, offering me a hand to help me stand. "Thanks, Mona," he says softly, as if my tiny action means a lot to him. Knowing Xavier, it probably does. "What about the blood?" I question, looking at his red-stained ankles. He shakes his head. "Don't worry about it. It will heal soon," he assures me, his voice confident. I roll my eyes, and then look to the window. It is dark inside, so I can't see the face, but I am sure the figure is still in there, watching us both. It seemed to be a girl, but I am not sure. All I know is that the person, whatever the gender, wants me dead. The chills are unceasing, biting at me with terrible force. Xavier turns to the forest behind us, right beyond the meadow. "It's this way," he declares. His tone certain. He whirls back to face me, his arms spread out wide. "Come here," he demands. His eyes are fierce, ordering obedience. Not knowing quite why, I oblige him. He sweeps me into his arms once more, strangely comforting me with his warmth. There is a silence as Xavier grits his teeth, and then he begins to run. Blindingly fast, his legs zoom into the vast underbrush. Destination unknown to me. However, at this moment, I don't care. Xavier is the least of my troubles. The voice still echoes in my head, stirring up fear in my heart. He is mine. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. I watch the scene around me, a blur of green, blue, and brown, with awe. It is so strange, the way everything changes so quickly. It is a collage of the senses, everything mashed together, unable to observe. The only thing that's constant is Xavier, and his huge arms around my form. Feeling like a baby in a cradle. I rock in his arms, marveling at the way I seem to fit in his embrace. For once, I am thankful for my small size. His hands offer constant heat as they radiate to my skin, warmth and desire blended together. It is an ordeal to him. I can tell, to just hold me like this, for the temptation is huge. For us both. I look to Xavier's masculine features, at the way his azure hair sparkles in the breeze. When the sun hits it just right, it resembles the rainbow, all the colors shining in each strand. It is the most magnificent hair I have ever seen in my life.